Okay. That should work. That's that. I have 2 dogs. Yeah. Okay. So today is so I got 2 Moochie dogs. I had to rush food down, and they are still expecting some food. Today is going to be focused on trying to get the notifications to push down to the client as well. And I kind of decided that no, let me walk through what I've done already. So yesterday after stream, I got the GraphQL endpoint is working, right? So this was in place. On the client side, I created this inbox store. This inbox store has a single query. And all it does is go and fetches the inbox, which is the query here. And then that allows me to display, it says, the inbox. So there's a few things we need to do about that. We need to be able to mark it as red. We need to be able to update that on the server side. I don't know how much of it I've actually got the stories for it. A second. But the story we created the other day, as it stands, consume this, store the message, create a view, and build a dashboard screen. Technically, that's all done, right? And this is one of those things where if a PM gives you that, well, technically I've done it, and I've actually wired it up, which is actually more than it asked for. I wasn't clear about those expectations. I mean, it'd be pedantic to do that, but you could still say, well, yeah, we've done it. So I've created a component for the inbox, and this inbox literally just queries the inbox store. It means you can just put this component any way you want, really. We'll put the behavior on this as well. So again, planning item. This is technically, I mean, this should be fetch title. Actually, no, fetch change type, and this would be message.entity type, right? This would be entity type is a string. This would be switch entity type. Case planning item. Let's do this. Let type has changed. Let's do it really naively right this second. It's easier than plan was updated. You want changed or updated? Probably changed. So the intent here is to show very much the inbox style. So I'm not going to play around with the CSS though. I'm going to focus on other things. What I was thinking about before the stream was right now I have, this is actually, this view here is hooked up to MassTransit and does have consumers inside. So when the planning item is updated, it actually does capture that. And if a requirement was updated, it also can trigger it. So the idea is that this can actually just send a notification down. But if I use the same mechanism for when an inbox message is received, the benefit there is when you navigate back and forth, if you get new messages, right? If I go here, right, I look at a planning item, I go back here, not here. That's another call to the server. But if the store's loaded, then do I want to make a call to the server every single time I go back there? Maybe. If I populate a message from the store, pardon me, into the store from here and navigate back without the load, then I do benefit and that message is there. Because I'm going to do the push note if they need a pop-up notification, I'm going to use that anyway. So it actually seems more like it's an effect of being pushed into this store with a flag set than it is. Yeah. And the other thing I'm debating is, do I want to make that GraphQL endpoint? Because I can split out GraphQL, right? Do I want to make this piece specific for the query and then make a separate GraphQL endpoint for notifications, and then I can put all the subscribers and stuff in, and the lines don't blur on what is a subscription and what is a query. So that's the syntax confuses me a little bit, but yeah. And actually, this is an interesting thing. Now I'm thinking about it. The path I've gone down is actually kind of interesting. From a design perspective, I've actually kind of forced myself down a path I didn't expect to force myself down. I've put the inbox in GraphQL. And the inbox only exists here. It doesn't actually exist as a concept in the system at large. I've designed my way into a challenge. So if I want to mark this as red, the only thing that has any concept of red is the database for the view, right? Because the inbox looks like this. Day red. This message doesn't exist anywhere else in the system. It is purely supportive of the client. That feels right. It doesn't feel like I need an inbox service or a client messaging service that is a completely separate component. But right now, this is called the view. So think about that one. I mean, this story is essentially completed, right? I'm not going to panic about the formatting. This actually isn't going to do it. This is just statically one day ago. The idea being though that if I go into, if I open a browser, I log in as um, Andrew at my.com, log in that way. Let's start the full stack. Like demoing it live. Um, Copies hopefully that's what it was. Wish there was a way of better promoting the stream on YouTube. Okay, that started. Okay, so if we go to this one, oh, we go here, continue without passkeys. Okay, so Andrew doesn't have any messages. Right? It should load. There you go. So Andrew has this. He changes. Actually, let me make sure that test planning items with projects at work is subscribed by our other user. I believe it is. The worst that will happen is that'll update. There's no actual harm in clicking the button again right a second. I haven't put unsubscribe back in there. Well, I haven't put unsubscribe in there yet. So the one on the right is Andrew. The one on the left is Jeffrey. So if we go in here, going change a lot of things. 7 weeks. It's going to be buttons, widgets, pop-ups, things. There you go. So that the green box does mean that it actually successfully made a trip to the server to confirm that that was updated. Doesn't mean this is going to show anything particularly yet. And actually, that's the same message. So I need to do it for another one. So let's go in here. Let's make sure that Jeffrey is subscribed to this one. Let's go and change add dialog for requirements. Let's assign that to 16th. Let's assign that to Andrew. That's 2 changes. And I don't know if any of this is going to work yet, right? I just, it might take a few minutes to trickle through. It might not work at all. 9 seconds ago, we changed the assigned user. Right? So things are looking like they are working. It's RabbitMQ. There's definitely messages. There's our 3 messages. There's 2. Yeah, there's the second message for that one, and there's our date added was only 17 seconds apart as well. Hey, Dotha, how you doing? So this actually has a bug. That's funny. It is funny. Um, really? No HTTP requests. Oh, that I've got to fix. That might be why. Track by. There we go. There's our messages. So again, I got to decide whether I do a duplication here. I mean, if a different user changes it, that's a challenge. Maybe it showed like ×2 here and whatnot, and show the updated version. So one thing I don't know if you can do in GraphQL. Well, no, in GraphQL you can't aggregate, I suppose. This design works so well in my head. But it's got holes. Like this is what I expected, right? This is what I wanted to do. The next challenge is when I click on one of these, I want to take you to the planning item, but right now I don't actually have a full page planning item detail. So that's actually going to drive that need. Let's go to the issue board. Right. So when I log in on the planning dashboard, I just see an inbox. Consume the send to inbox command, store the message, create the view, build a dashboard screen. That's working perfectly. Your notifications like Windows has in the bottom right corner. I'm not sure. Not sure. I mean, the idea of this here is actually more like a things changed. The pop-up notifications would be separate to this because again, this is just if I go over here and come back here, that's my inbox. That's like if I log into the application, these are the things that have happened. Whether it be a bing 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 in the bottom right corner or a notification at the top. I just worry people get messages in the inbox and not bother checking it. Well, yeah, don't forget this is part of the design, right? To say, well, you're going to get an inbox. It is what it is, but you're also going to be able to say push like a pop-up notification, summary emails, etc. So this inbox is intended very much to say, there's things available for you to look at. Go check them out. I think what actually might be more interesting right this second is to pivot a little bit to the changes aspect of this and query the changes. We were throwing a dashboard or something. Yep, that's what this is. This is your planning dashboard. There's going to be other things on here. That's the intention. So that's why I'm not worrying about styling necessarily. But yeah, this is going to grow. I mean, the good news is all the pieces work there, right? So that was all 11 projects there running, plus the website, plus you know all the technologies in between were running fine. So that's the behavior I was looking for. Yeah, the idea here is that this is your kind of your dashboard, and this is, you know, the current status of things. Whether this scrolls or this is, I'm still being that it's like this. I'm actually not too sure that I want to do like the inbox in this way, but the reality is I do want to mark things as red. So this is maybe I do have red, unread up here, so you can actually see the past things. But also when is the time window it shows messages in? Do you want to ever see that a notification came in 6 months ago telling you that a thing changed? There's no actual content in these things. This isn't an inbox in terms of an actual email inbox. So, I mean, I could construct something, but I think that would be excessive, and I don't think that's really what people want. I think, realistically, you want a prompt to say, okay, by the way, this planning item was changed by this user. You probably want to go and see it. So maybe we'll pivot a little bit to figuring out calculating the change, displaying the changes in the application, and go that way, because I think I've got some challenges to figure out on the notification side of things. Primarily the fact that if I want to mark this as red, there's only one place that owns this, and that is the view. And it's called the view. There's a design dilemma there. There's no need for this data. This data, it doesn't matter if it gets lost. It doesn't matter if you've seen it or whatever. It doesn't really matter. Um, it's not worth making an entire system for. That being said, um, so 6 or 7 articles. So 6 or 7 articles on Agile posted in Slack. Some Slack. We posted under Agile, and you're like, nice, thank you. Specifically on storage requirements, etc. Nice. I'll take a look through that. One just stood out in la, 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 immediately. Nice. Read through this. So, yeah, I'll read through that. And that's one of the things I'm trying to do with this, right, is to try and evolve that. So again, no template. This is essentially a wish list. It's a way for the PM to put into words the things they think they want, so that they can be discussed without actually becoming the stories. So that is what that attempt is. So yeah, no complicated templating, just the ability to write down what you want and be asked questions on that thing. Yeah. So okay, wait. I think we can close Andrew down in a second. Um, yeah, getting an incoherent idea to coherent is not easy. No, no. Well, we are as developers, so that's why I'm saying that this system's measure will be when I actually see a PM, and I actually get someone who does that role and is, you know, not a developer. And they are able to look through it and and say, yeah, I think this does help solve my problem. If it solves developer problems, like if you guys actually think, oh, I can use this, oh, they changed the ad break message in Twitch. Awesome. It's now a big green box that's up on screen. Apologize if anyone's in ads. As developers, though, again, I'm the same way, right? I'm still guilty of that. This is a story. No, it's not. It's a set of dream requirements, and it completely misses the discussion. But I can't have that discussion with myself, and that's why, as developers, we are terrible at just doing this stuff, and that's why we always pick up. We work with lower requirement or lesser requirements because we just I can do that. Because you can visualize, you can dream it up. The fact that you shouldn't doesn't really enter into our minds. So yeah, let's move this on. And if anyone is new to the stream, you're more than welcome to ask any questions. If you have any thoughts, opinions, etc., please feel free. In my case, I get excited and then I spew the first idea on the topic that I happened to be introduced to. Yeah. Hello, little doggy. Hello. Yeah. It's very easy as a developer to just bundle straight through into the coding thing. To some extent, proof of this, I bundled through into let's get this inbox displayed, and I got the inbox, I got what I wanted, but then there's a consequence of that. I put some stop, Taylor. It's okay. I bundled through into that, and the consequence is what I've actually just done is I've actually put something that expects behavior in something that expected no behavior. So I'm going to have a think about that. I'll sit in the corner and think about what I've done, because it's worth just pausing and thinking about the design. But I didn't. If I'd have thought through this, if I'd have talked through it about the features necessary, then maybe my design of this would have been different. I do have an answer, but I don't want to just knee-jerk reaction. Introduce inbox view stores. Consolidate GraphQL from notifications and inbox into messaging sales. Oh yeah, I just realized I did not have it. I'm going to have to go let that out. So I will be right back. Sorry. I thought I'd checked. My apologies. Thank you very much. What I was saying then was this is kind of a lesson for me. No, I'll dig through them off stream afterwards. I like the list. I'll after stream I'll read through. See if we can get any insights. Yeah, just the one I did look at was I can see definitely there's some good points in there. So that's some good yeah. So I've made this PR and it's 153 files. Now it's caused by the fact that I decided that the organization of the application was important. Right. Now, a normal developer isn't going to do this sort of stuff, right? They're not going to change a lot of this stuff because it's going to be set in stone. But it does create a challenge because I've mixed in kind of a restructuring with the code, which isn't wrong. Right? You should leave it better than you found it. You shouldn't be scared to do these sorts of things. Should you do them as a separate PR? Maybe. Maybe. They do, but there's no good mechanism. I'm not gonna go through all this. If I break things in this application, then I can get back to a good point. There is no solid mechanism right before you do a merge to do anything else other than review. I feel. I haven't seen anything that works. Anything synchronous seems to work better. You mean like what? Pair programming, even pair reviews. But pair programming is still the so the pushback on that one will be, oh, another meeting. Interesting. Oh, that's really interesting. Oh, there you go. I think more collaborative workflows definitely contribute to a better PR process. Being able to talk about what you're doing, being able to share the code, being able to review the code as it's being built, then beyond that, having better testing procedures, having different tools. I don't think there's a perfect answer. But a lot of teams don't work. Again, I think there's a lot of we try to fit teams and practices into a structure that we call agile, and what we really have is a bunch of individuals that are referred to as a team because they have the same manager, but they're not actually a team. And that's when PR reviews don't work well. If there's no context, if there's no shared understanding of what it is you're trying to achieve, if there's no shared responsibility. So I agree. I tend to agree. Pair programming will help with some of it, but pair programming can also kind of, it's not quite an echo chamber, but it is pair programming. Oftentimes, you both have the same understanding of what the code's doing. So a mistake can still creep through there. Because if you're both not thinking about it, you know. Okay. I want to do changes. That's what I want to do. So let's see that. Let's see this. So we're going to move that over to done. Right, we're having a productive week. Um, um, a message. This is kind of what I'm after. When I click on a notification and an inbox message, got to determine what the standard for referring to that is. Navigate to detail page. Now I think what I'm going to do right this second. Stop it. So I think what I'm going to do this second is I'm going to put an extra tab in there, and that's going to be the changes. Dog's just been wandering around. Navigate to detail page. Show tab on details for. I think. I don't think it's a route. Might be a route, in which case I could just navigate to that route. Show tab on details for changes. Changes should show in recent in date descending order. Okay. Let's do that. Let's do that. We're gonna do T96. Having the dogs move around and allowing them to move while I'm streaming is an attempt to make sure that when school starts back in September and my wife and daughter are no longer in the house, that I can still manage the dogs and they're comfortable with coming and sitting in. But some days can be a little bit more frustrating than others because they're also big chewers. So if they disappear, they could be just lying down and sleeping. They could be eating the couch. And they're silent. So my apologies if I seem distracted. It's just trying to keep an eye on them. line from Fowler on user stories. Stories are deliberately not fleshed out in detail until they're ready to be developed. You only need enough understanding to allow prioritization with the stories. Huh. Interesting. I these days I definitely disagree because the reality is, I mean, I get the agility of doing it that way, right? I get that if we don't do super planning, then we can be more agile. We can change things on a dime, right? Well, in reality, how super is super planning? I didn't know how to do it. I think we need. Oh yeah, right up to 11. Um, we need clear definitions. We need clear expectations because um, we have so many. I've seen user stories that are a single sentence. They're totally fine if they're nice and simple. Agile is not knowing isn't not knowing what you want. Agile is not having it specced out in detail how to get there. And I think in general, it is actually the how do I put it? No matter how much detail you put in that scope, is too big. It cannot be done. Uh, yeah, I'm kind of thinking about how do I feel about all that. Um, again, this system is driven from the fact that I've seen too many times what happens when developers are given single sentences as requirements. The system is driven from the need to try and maybe it is because I do believe that a story can be a single line, but um, it shouldn't be um, developed from the product side that way. Yeah. But Joe, good morning. Or yeah, hello again. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm now drifting off into thinking about I can't imagine with the teams that I've worked with that a single sentence in every single story would ever work. Um, did you get what needed to do done? I hope so. I hope we didn't get too derailed. Uh, I think Deflux fell asleep in the hangout as well, or he's just reserved his spot now. Oh man, that's a challenge. Won't connect in as your like from your machine, or like it's a firewall issue or configuration issue. I never had this happen before. The checkbox is there for allow all Azure services. Oh no. Okay, let's do new branch feature T96 view changes. Nice. Nice. So to the point of user stories, to the point of, you know, stories are deliberately not fleshed out in detail until they are ready to be developed. From if I'm working on my own, then yes, I probably can. And I, you know, I have done it many times throughout this application development so far, right? I've written a single sentence and I've been able to work off that. And even here, I'm essentially working off a single sentence. I've got a vision, right? But if I add another person to this, will they have the same vision for that? Will they have the same expectation of that? I don't think they would. And that's what worries me. Like, we can talk about, sorry, I'm just trying to figure out which one needs to go. It's cleaned up. You know, agile as far as just being, you know, literally being agile about the development. But in reality, we end up with too much churn when that happens. Because developers aren't going to develop the same thing or do the same thing in the code, or they're gonna, you know, they don't have the same experience I do, so they go and implement this in a way that I didn't expect them to develop it in. And yeah, some of that can be handled by the conversations. And it's why if you're doing the pointing thing, you shouldn't just give in. If a senior dev says that's a 3 and you think it's a 5, you shouldn't just give in. You should understand why they think it's a 3 and you think it's a 5 and debate it. I'll be right back. I think it auto mutes, or maybe I pressed it deliberately. I'm getting used to the new Stream Deck. I got the Stream Deck Plus, and the audio is actually coming through there now, which is kind of nice. I'm actually getting this info from reading through the articles. Might be better to go through all the articles first. Yeah, I was just saying that. Um, like I don't believe I'm on the wrong track. My experience of doing this so far is I get that in an ideal world, a single a single sentence for a story is going to work, but the reality is I've seen too many failures doing that, right? It's not good enough to do that, especially today. If you have a variety of skill, a variety of understanding of the application stack, we've built systems that are not that flexible. And maybe in this system eventually, when the standards are in there, the style is in there, it could be driven off a sentence. And yeah, I'm doing that, but I'm writing the system. I'm intimately aware of the challenges, and I can adapt to it. I've seen the one sentence method work, so I'm skeptical it doesn't. Uh, So you believe that a development team can run off of one sentence for every story, or in the majority of stories, and you've seen that work effectively. As far as even so, no more stuff until it starts to be worked on. I I I don't get that. I don't get how that works because the prioritization requires understanding of what it involves, and if the team doesn't understand what it involves, how do you prioritize? That's where I get stuck. I get the whole agility thing. I get the whole idea of it, but it's an ideal built with a bunch of professionals that are very good at what they do. And the reality of it is developers don't all have the same understanding, the same skill, the same confidence in the code base. If the other team we are somewhat working with now took on our process, I don't think it'd work. They constantly get stories and throw them back. But again, if I give you that, when I click on an inbox message, I should be presented with details of what changed. And that's all I'm giving you, right? How do you deliver what the PM expects? There's a fine balance, right? But again, I don't want that balance to be on the development side. I want that balance to be on the product management side, which is why I'm pushing it to where I am pushing it, because I actually think that maybe when we actually get to doing the story development stuff of this, what actually results is those requirements actually become the single sentence, and it's good enough because the discussions happened about it. Maybe that's what the idea is. The three blocks that could be explained in a meeting with the team lead and the developer. I usually make the tasks on my stories. Make the tasks on my stories. Yeah. Again, different. I can't imagine a world with the development teams I've worked with where one sentence yields the same result um, between different devs. Maybe it's because maybe because of the problems I'm trying to address, which is the whole um, timeline of things. Where if that sentence is given to you 3 weeks out and you can talk about it, fine. If that sentence is given to you 3 hours out and you can't talk about it, and a dev gets assigned it and they get to go off and do it, the problem is that this would yield. Well, I expected this, I expected that. Where's the detail page? What we didn't talk about detail page. You just said we want to, present it. So, um, Oh no, I wish this was a ticket UI. That'd be awesome. This is a JetBrains Space. This is what I'm using until I get my system in a good place. Mark, welcome back, by the way. What does the 3 extra sentences give you that the 1 sentence doesn't? So this is my little discussion, right? This would be a more involved discussion. This would be what the developers would talk about, right? I wish I got this far, Mark. Yeah, this is actually going away in a couple of months, so I have a limited time before JetBrains shuts this down. Yeah, but the thing is, if you look at these, they actually would be what would be expected to be seen by the PM. Are you trying to rely on that over a conversation with the developer? No, 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 no. No, this is just for me to document what I'm actually going to do for the purpose of the stream. This would be, to me, these are requirements, right? So the PM would say, "Hey, when I'm presenting the screen, I want to be able to click on the actual detail. I want to click on the actual thing. I want to be taken to a detail page for the planning item. I want to be able to see a tab on there for changes and again mock-ups, etc. And the changes should actually show in a descending order. So I should see the most recent changes first, right? They might not ask this. We might say, what order do you want them to be asked in or displayed in? There's all manner of ways that this could be done, right? This is just more for me for the stream to say, here's roughly what I'm going to do. But ultimately, this should have been a conversation. These would actually be requirements captured by the PM, along with screenshots of what they're expected to see. The developers would discuss this and talk about the complexity. Because if I assume this exists, or I make an assumption here, how do we point that effectively? How do we prioritize that if that's not there? I wonder if they should be captured by the developer, some product person. Not necessarily, but again, that's why I'm introducing planning as a concept, because it's it starts off as a wish list by the PM, so they can build out what they think they want, and the developers can review that with them and eradicate requirements or clean up requirements or and actually put it there. Easily pointable is about how big the story is, though. But if you are missing, if you are missing a part of the understanding, how do you point the story? If I miss the fact that there's no tab, or I don't understand that they want a tab, because all they're saying is when I click on an inbox message, I should be presented with details of what changed. There's so many different ways of interpreting that. You need this detail and you need their expectations. Because again, assumptions are what kicks us in the pants so many times. Morning, Kenny. Oh, good day, Kenny. Sorry. And how well understood is it between the asker and the dev? I question if you're trying to eliminate assumptions through text rather than a conversation. I'm not trying to eradicate the conversation. I'm trying to guide the conversation. The conversation doesn't happen, right? Developers don't ask questions in general. They see something they are asked to do and they go off and do it, right? If you and I are working on a project together and we work like that, you get the same requirement I do. We're going to do that. If we're just giving a sentence, we might achieve the same thing. We might not do. I might make different assumptions about the system than you do. The purpose of the whole planning, the purpose of the meetings of the cycle is to try and get those assumptions out. All I'm trying to do is capture those assumptions earlier by making the PM responsible for kind of dreaming up what they want before it becomes an actual story that the developers have to worry about. In a way, a sentence forces a conversation, though. It requires a conversation to understand what the sentence means. But the problem is, how do you capture those things? You can't just have. I can't have that conversation with a PM and walk away and do the story, and nothing gets captured. Because in reality, if they've told me to do something, and this is from bitter experience, if they've told me to do something and I haven't captured it in that story, right? Or they've asked me and they don't tell. If they've asked me to do something, what? I think you identified a separate issue where someone wants something but they don't even understand it. PMs are too often throwing an idea over the fence, and devs then have to make the best of it. Anything that guides the process towards a more open discussion is an improvement. Yeah. They have an idea and it's not flushed out. But that's why the planning system, that's why the planning aspect of Liquid Sky, right? It's because what I don't. Right, but is that even a feature request? But that's okay. I'm gonna go BRB one more time because I need to go and get the dogs in. But I'll be right back, and this should have started by then. Okay, I should have been muted that time. Okay, so let's go in here. Yeah, better now. Thanks. Okay, so the way I see this system working, right, is the product manager is assigned a project to do, right? Maybe it's part of an initiative. We'll get to initiatives later, but they are assigned a project to do. So what they do is they come in here, they write up what they want the system to do. This could be 10 sentences. It could be, a mini book, right? They attach requirements to the system, right? So I should see a thing on the thing. This is them again dreaming, right? Intended outcome. I should see a button that shows something on the thing. Right. Again, they're kind of sharing their vision. They're sharing what they expect to see. Maybe they attach a file. They do that. It's marketing, PM, product. It's not developers at all. Right. They go through this. They lay out what they want to do. Right. Because what we're trying to do is capture their thoughts. We're trying to capture, here's what they do. I want to make it as easy as possible. It's a dream. This is their wish list. The idea being that it allows them to talk about it in a way that doesn't necessarily involve the developers. Developers could be involved at this point, but there's no to push back if they wanted to. But it's not a story yet. It's nothing to do with actual work to be done. It's kind of, we expect this is the way. And that's why this is an actual assignment. This is I think it involves planning. I think it involves story, right? The idea is that they're kind of building this requirements list up. Again, the review date is aimed at making sure that they can say, okay, well, I need to review this by next week. So let's put a deadline on there of a review date of next week, and it'll prompt me. so that stories can keep, so planning items can stay fresh. At the point this goes to become actual work, just curious, do you plan to have a history of what happened there and comments? Yes. Yeah. I'm actually working on the changes stuff now. Of so there's going to be a third tab here, and it's going to show the changes history. That's what I've been. That's kind of like why I don't want to use this yet. I think from idea to work, you are probably right that they need a clear vision, but from work to developer, it's not as helpful. Right. So the goal here is that when it comes time to actual planning, the developers can sit down with the PM. They can go through the list of requirements. They can go through what they expect of the story. They can push back. They can say, actually, we need some more work. We need some more visuals. We need this. We need that. The discussions are happening to try and refine this before it actually becomes a story. What could happen is these requirements get bundled together and they become a story, or they become one story per requirement. It's all flexible, right? So the idea will be that when you say, okay, now let's promote this to be a story, there'll be a kind of a wizard process that'll say, okay, here's the actual story. Here's the actual planning item. Which of the requirements do you want to take as stories? And do you want them as one story? Do you want them as 10 stories? Do you want them assigned to different teams? You're able to plot that out and actually create the stories from this. And this will track all the stories that it created. It goes idea to developer, no matter what you do with requirements, it cannot be worked on. If I don't know what I want, it cannot be started on. I think it was idea to developer. Right. So it's not, is that this is the discussion driver. That's the intention. Because again, the PM has to have captured something to be able to build stories out. They're not actually building the stories, right? The PM is actually dreaming up what they want. The developers essentially build the stories at that point. So in that respect, I can kind of see a single sentence could make it through as a story, because then it's well understood. And that's the problem. That's what we miss. I feel like detailed requirements in a story in an attempt to go from idea to developer. Right. But again, that's why this step, because the I tend to agree. We go either too light or too heavy on requirements without any middle step where a team lead or something filters it. Well, a team lead is not responsible for doing that, right? A team lead is responsible for leading a development team. The team is responsible for accepting the stories. That's kind of the problem. If you're working in an environment that is very team focused and the team is having this discussion, the team is involved in this planning, right? Like again, there's no story here, right? You could put priority in this, right? Priority is probably something that will appear eventually in this, right? Is this high priority? Is it low priority? So you can actually figure out whether review date should shift further away, etc. But again, it's why the notifications piece, where people will um, be able to subscribe to what they want to know. But again, this is not the stories, right? This is the planning, and it's aimed at deliberately avoiding weighty stories with just everything dumped in them to try and meet the need of saying the developers like, oh, well, we need requirements, so they dump everything in there. This is a refinement step. This can be reviewed without developers. This can be reviewed with developers. Again, there'll be comments and yeah, to Kenny's point, there will be comments, yeah. But I still do not feel that most development teams I've worked with, even given a single sentence, if they have not had any conversation, definitely could not work on the same story. From a dev point of view, if you're coming to me with a specific thing, I can easily work on it. Doesn't matter what the ticket contains. Again, the problem is if that ticket contains a sentence that has an assumption behind it that has not been discussed or opened up. E.g., we want to able to purchase products in the application. That requires a lot of definition. Absolutely. That's not a story. Yeah. You could argue that's too big for a story. Being that, well, when I discussed it in my head, I decided, okay, I need a detail page. But like that, and that alone is its own requirement. And again, sometimes I'm being more pragmatic about this because I want to move forward with the actual project and not get stuck on building out multiple stories every time. Write this product page and stub out the sales aspect is workable if you understand what the sales aspect means. And what does the product page contain? And again, stub out. Like, so what is the product page? Like, create a product page. That's not enough to build off of, right? You need a mock-up. And is that mock-up 100% accurate? I.e., can you rely upon it for the fields that are in there? But not necessarily. They don't always put every single aspect in there, and sometimes they put a wish list of items in there in terms of UI. So you can't just go and run off with it if there's a Figma. And yeah, you've got to assume that the PM and the UI UX person has actually coordinated to agree upon what's there, and not that the. And again, I've dealt with this. The UI UX is kind of a here's what it should roughly look like, but that isn't enough. If you're building everything off the Figma, that's not enough, because there's assumptions in there. There's things that you have to ask about, and those conversations aren't captured. And oftentimes you would get, okay, well, the PM wants this, the UX guy said this. Yeah. Code functionality wise, it was the same. But again, if you had a conversation, and I've been bitten by this in the past where my teams have been like, when did this change? Why does this now look like this? You're like, well, we had a conversation about it. When did we have a conversation? Oh, me and that person got together and talked about it, and we agreed upon this. That's good. That flexibility in the process is important, but now you need to capture it. You need to capture the output of that. If there's an assumption, especially if there's a decision made that affected the outcome, you need to capture that somewhere, because it might be that someone else dreamt up that thing and is expecting to see one thing, and now they push back the story. And I've had it happen. I've had that story rejected. Well, yeah, the Figma was updated. You've gone back and forth with them, but again, but if that conversation is not captured, and again, it's all about the, the assumptions. Stories get rejected. Well, that's not what I asked for. So the conversations still need to happen, and things need to happen. So it's the things around the edge that, again, those sentences may be useful if you've got the right team makeup. I just don't think we often have the right team makeup to support single sentences. It's more about the collaboration ability. It's a combination. The collaboration is a very important component. PMs, UI, UX developers need to realize that they are a team. They're not working against each other, they're working with each other. And when they work well together, things get done. But in the same, capturing what was done, how it was done, decisions that were made relative to what was actually expected. Because again, if this story gets completed and it wasn't the developer that actually the developer made some changes or the PM made some changes, you know, I banked some time this week, but 30 minutes later, no worries, Delta. I appreciate you hanging out and talking about this. I'll read through those articles and maybe we can continue the conversation another time. So let's finish the stream. I was enjoying it. Yeah, it's useful, and again, different experiences give us different points of view, which is good. So we're going to do the receiver for the changes. This is going to be a fun one. So the changes stream, or changes topic, is literally a bunch of befores and afters, right? It is per topic, per object. So I know what object I'm talking about. My plan here right now is to literally just capture no, I can't do that. Oh, this is going way more complicated than I expected it to be. So when I developed this the first time, I had a plan in a different direction, and I adapted that plan the other day, but it has knock-on effects. So here's my system interactions diagram. Initially, this was going to do a lot of this heavy lifting. Then I put this in place. The view now consumes changes in this diagram, which I still think is good. But the challenge now is this data in this topic. In this instance, I've got clear text. And it's a good thing I got this capture card. I'm supposed to record myself using this integration with something called Lockdown Browser, that essentially covers your screen and closes your apps. I did a coding interview with something like that once. To agree to have it running on my machine, and then basically couldn't use anything else on my machine until the test had finished. It does. Yes, it got removed pretty quickly. That's the one time I've given feedback to an interview process. It was like that was BS. It's the only time I've ever given any real negative feedback to anybody. They asked, "How do you feel the interview process went?" So I told them, doing that coding test is absolute. Yeah, that's what it was proven. I could do an algorithm from memory. Only time an a potential employer, has actually contacted me months later as well and asked if I still was interested in a job. Yeah, that was fun. So anyway, these changes aren't always just about, right. In this case, right, this object array changed, right? So, pardon me, I added a requirement. There was no requirements before. Now there's one requirement. Requirements, again, they won't always be attached as objects on the actual planning item. Pardon me, I'm going to refactor them because it's just too big. That these could be large things. But this one is another one, right? Before and after on the assigned user identifier. This is a challenge because the the name of the property is going to tell me, oh, I need to go and get some extra data. So how do I do that? This is going to be a design challenge. So I feel like this feed is a good thing, right? It's not specific. It is generic, but it is specific to the object, so I know which object I'm dealing with. The problem is, ooh, I get to do some reflection. I think. I think what I want to do here, start linkpad. I still enjoy linkpad for doing my general random coding stuff. I think what I want to end up with here is if I have an object that is, and I'm open to ideas here. If anybody has any ideas of how you would approach this challenge, I'm happy to listen. So the problem, the challenge arises in that if I have two entities, so two changes for the same entity, right? So there is a planning item and it has an assigned user identifier and it has requirements attached to it, right? So this first change came in and changed the assigned user from this to this. Now on the screen, what I want to display is Andrew changed assigned user from Jim to Bob. Bob. Um, too quick on the olds there. So I want to display that as a card in the changes list with the date and time. Right. So to do that, this needs to be translated. This one doesn't need to be translated. This just needs to say the requirement changed from this to this. But now there's an array of objects in this. So how do I effectively do this? Well, the first thing I want to do, I think, is build something that says, okay, which field am I selecting off of the object? And no, I need to map. I need to map this. I don't need to just do reflection. This isn't going to pull anything off the actual object itself. It doesn't need to know planning item. Essentially, this needs to know, okay, what do I actually look up? And this needs to display, this needs to map, again, yeah, created by user identifier. Yeah, so I need to do something that says, okay, well, sign user identifier maps to user dot identifier, but requirements maps to transform or some form of requirements, right? So and do I do this on the client side or do this on the server side? The actual display stuff, I get I'll do on the client side, but last updated is an easy one. It's just a value. What else could there be on the object right this second? Associated projects. Associated projects is a bit more difficult because again, associated projects is an array of projects. Associated projects is an array of identifiers. So that maps to project.identifier, but as a map. So essentially what I'm looking at is some form of transform function per field that understands how to get what it needs to get. So So I do need something that's going to transform it into a readable version, because again, this is here. Do I return an object and then leave the client to determine how to display the object? Because obviously, if it's an array of values, that's a little different, because the array of here, I just need to transform it so I get rid of. I don't need created by user identifier. I don't need them. I don't think. I think I just need this. What I'm thinking is I want to create some sort of public class change transformer, right? Let's go abstract class change transformer that has change definite change entry as a result of transform entry. So it takes this, because I'm going to always need this, right, in the base. So actually, this would probably end up with public change description and transform. This would always need a user repository. Everything's about users, right? There's a lot of stuff about users, like who did it. I think I have a different plan on how to achieve this. So one of the options I have available to me is to use Kafka streams. So I can take an input stream, such as this. I can then feed it through some code and deliver it as a different stream. So what I'm thinking is, instead of doing this, what I do is I feed this through. I could start using quirky names here, but we'll feed it through Optimus Prime because it's a transformer, right? We could feed it through a transformer service. This is basically just a Kafka stream in the middle. Right. Rixcrafts, thank you very much for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome in. So if we feed that through a transformer, So basically, a Kafka stream in there, and then feed that directly out as view data. Then the view only has to ever display the view, right? We don't actually have to do all that complicated logic every time you query the view. I think that's probably a cleaner design and more efficient because the view gets to change once it's been transformed. That actually reminds me of the Decepticon, the planet on the well, yeah. Um, so if you feed that through there, then this is dotted. Right. So if you're new to the stream, if you have any questions, thoughts, opinions on what I'm doing, you're more than welcome to ask or state. I'm happy to discuss this. Right now, I'm currently trying to figure out the design of how I want to display the changes that have happened. So this UI is going to have a changes tab, and it's going to show the list of the actual things that changed. In reality, I don't want to do that every time I click on changes, right? I don't want to calculate that. That can be cached. There's no harm in having it pre-calculated. But the problem is that I calculate the changes. I don't want to make this piece, this changes component, responsible for anything more than calculating the changes, because in the name of distributed the processing power, um, I don't want this backed up trying to figure out, or even to have to consume all the data from the entire system to be able to consolidate this down. The tenant management, a user change is not going to be something that triggers a change. Attachments, maybe not, right? I can build it later if I want to, but yeah. So what I'm thinking is there's a transformer in here, and this is a Kafka Streams service. Basically, you subscribe to one topic and produce a different topic. So coming back on the design, what I could end up with is that this changes stream is not the end form. Maybe I have an actual liquid sky.changes stream that actually outputs the entity type, and then the transformer produces this version of it. So this is actually a readable version of that. What I'm trying to pause on is just to make sure that I've got a new hammer. Do I have a nail? I think I do. I think I do have a need here for this, because I think it does benefit from having don't let me while play with arrows. The dash lines is just me indicating it doesn't exist yet as I put this thing together. So overall, the system, trying to make it more efficient, and I think what is currently called a view gets broken up into a few components at this point. Because what this is going to do here, essentially, it's going to say, okay, well, the it's kind of going to make this a work in progress if I do it this way. But ultimately, I'm going to say, okay, well, var user equals user repository dot, first default new user by identifier spec, and that's going to take the entry dot source user identifier. And that's going to tell me who changed it, right? So who changed this thing? When did it occur on? So I'm going to start building this change description based off that. So a new change description of user and entry dot occurred on, right? And then I'm thinking that what we end up with is a change description. Actually, a void apply. Let's go with that for right this second. And that takes a change entry, change description, and that's a ref. Then we do apply changes, entry, ref, description. Then we return description. And then the implementation of this might be public class associated projects transformer. You need user repository, can't avoid. That's the downside to this. The user repository stuff is kind of mandatory at that point if I do it this way. Actually, if I'm right, and then the apply public void apply changes. This method in here right? This method in here is what would actually be called by this to apply that change. So if I created one of these, I'd get by default a change transformer, which would actually go and pick out who did it. And then it'd call my apply method, right? So this now has understanding of what the structure should look like here. So it knows what that type is. Right now, this is actually stored as an array of objects that have a name and a before and after, and the before and after is an object, but I'll be able to cast the object to the right type here. Because again, if you look at this is an empty array. This is an array. This is actually the object value, not the actual, not just an array of values. It's the actual object value. So that it could take requirements and say, or associated projects, etc. And this would then need projects repository. And then, yeah, again, it would be IEnumerable GUID projects before would kind of be entry dot before, right? Something like that. But now I can cast it. So now with the cast, I can actually loop through these. So I think that's a solid direction. Whether it'll look like this, I don't know. There might be a few different things I want to do because again, I'm going to have to loop through these. Now I'm going to get a change and it's going to tell me the fields. I'm going to have to loop through the fields and there'll be a transformer per field. So whether there's a factory or something that says, okay, well, given this, right, here's the transformer. Given this, here's a transformer. And then I can just do a factory method that says, okay, given a change name, and that's the field name, by the way. That's the actual field or object name. And that's calculated off the planning item integration event, not the planning item in the table for the planning items. And this way, the change transformer understands the context of what it's working on. Right. So this, I could do it reflectively. Field change. Right. Something like that. And then I'd be able to build a factory that just basically says, oh, go find me all the field change types and invoke their, pull them from dependency injection. That would look like transform a factory, public change transformer, fetch factory, fetch transformer, whatever you call it. I'm not going to roll as much as I want to, like, lean into the whole transformer word and play with it and have a bit of fun with my naming. I do want to keep it a little bit more serious. It's tempting when you're developing software to have some fun and name your projects. Like, this is called Liquid Sky Project, but that's just a code name for it. It's nothing. It's because I don't want to spend months trying to find the perfect name for a product I haven't built. So, but I haven't really named any of my projects anything. Right? In the past, like messaging, you could name that. What's the name? Athena, not Athena, no. Use Greek gods and things like that for it, and yeah. I actually did name my little mini bots after the Titan of Curiosity and Query, but I'm not naming the projects in a quirky way, so I don't want to lean in as much as it can be fun. The problem is if you start naming things kind of goofy and lean into the goofiness of it, it can actually remove readability from the code. I'd rather focus on the job it's doing than trying to like lean into some like robots in disguise analogies and make the code harder to understand. So as much as I could have fun with the naming of these things, I don't want to be goofy with the code. It just doesn't help with the readability because, again, if you've not seen Transformers and I start talking about Autobots and Decepticons and stuff like that in there, you have no idea what it means. It has no relevance to the actual code other than that I've given things names just because I thought it was funny. So yeah. And transform, there's probably a better pattern name for what I'm trying to do here. I'll probably do some research on the most appropriate pattern for this sort of thing. Because this is definitely a pattern, right? There's a thing where I have a field, I have a need to transform that into a human readable form and produce that. So what I'll do is I create this Kafka streams thing that'll consume this. And again, I might actually merge all the changes into one stream and just attach the type of entity. And then this only has to worry about consume one, produce many, right? Because then it can produce to the particular topic that is necessary. And then this all this has to do is consume that thing. Maybe not. Maybe I can combine them. My problem is noise. I don't want to make too much noise. And if you wanted to consume just the changes against the planning item, then you could end up in having to build your own stream processes to pull out just the planning items, etc. Later. as if I produce actual streams for the changes independently, I can consume them and store them appropriately. Yeah, I think we'll do that. So anyway, that is that. That is how that is going. Seems really loud. Okay. So I'm gonna finish up here. I will be back on. I will not be here tomorrow. No stream tomorrow, unfortunately, because I have appointments. Yeah, no worries, Mojo. I hope things work out for the project stuff. Let me know if you need anything. I will not be here tomorrow. I'll probably stream over the weekend because this is fun. I'm actually together. Good job. Yeah. So let's go raid Monospace Mentor today. So Monospace Mentor does a co-working stream, so he's got music playing. So be warned if you've got headphones on and you are listening to me, you might want to turn the volume down a little bit. It'll be quite the bland contrast, or the stark contrast to my stream. But he is co-working, so he may or may not answer right away. He's on a Pomodoro timer. So thank you very much for joining me. Take care. I will be back probably over the weekend randomly, but definitely Monday morning. Long stream Monday because it's a day off work. So we'll do a 3 or 4 hour stream on Monday. And yeah, that's that. So take care. Have a great day. Thank you very much. I'll see you again soon. Bye. And I've got a screen. I do have a screen now because I have